This is Sportsbet Daily for at oddsmarket.com. It's UFC 245. We're off to Las Vegas and Team Liveline boys, Dave and Jace. And by the way, they were victorious last week, just like I said they would be over Team Hanging Fruit Low Bag. We've got an unbelievable card this week that follows a dodgy card last week. Am I right, gentlemen?
I don't think it was that bad. We only lost 2 fights out of the 12 that we
No, but
picked.
the standard of fight, Jay. The standard on the card.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. Compared to this card, it was terrible.
Yeah. Dave, how are you, sir? And Merry Christmas to you. I can see you getting into the swing of things. Your Father Christmas impressions and that.
Well, I got a manger behind me, so I'm all down for Christmas right now.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be. It's all about the kids. Now, what about this card? We're going to get straight into it. Colby Covington, 15-1. Kamaru Usman, 15-1. Main event.
Who's going to lead the dance?
You are.
That's the
You spoke. You lead the dance.
You want me to lead the dance?
I want you to lead the dance.
I didn't actually cover this fight for Odds Market. This was one that I did for SBR, and it's a tough one. This is an elite level wrestler versus another elite level wrestler. We have Colby Covington, who is actually a Division 1 champion, and Kamaru Usman, who is a Division 2 champion. Sometimes in the NCAA wrestling world, these level of fighters from Division 1 and 2, they will cross paths and they will have a wrestling match, but this just didn't seem to happen. They were both floating through the scene at the same time, but they finally cross paths now in the UFC. We've got Usman holding the title. We've got Covington, who won the interim title and then through injury was unable to continue with that. And now it's gone full circle. They're going to take each other on this weekend, and it's probably I'm going to, even though this card, every single fight is tough, this is the hardest fight to predict. To give a confident outcome in this fight, you're going to have to be a silly man and really not pay attention to MMA at all. Odds. Go straight to the odds. I can see that you can get Colby Covington at plus 175, and without watching fight tape, without doing any research whatsoever, straight off the top of my head, I knew that I was going to pick Colby Covington based on these odds. We've got a wrestler who is more powerful in Usman, who's definitely going to have the stronger strikes. He's going to have a bigger chance of a knockout. But we've got Covington, who's output in the strikes, and his defense, his in and out movement is, I don't think Usman's going to catch him. So for me, for Usman to win this fight, he's going to have to wrestle Covington. Covington, other than towards the later rounds against Rafael dos Anjos, I haven't saw anybody take this kid down and keep him there for longer than a couple of seconds. Usman may do that. Is he going to do it for 25 minutes? I don't think so. I don't want to think too much about this fight because it would keep me up awake at night. So for me, it's a play on the odds, and I have to take Colby Covington based on these odds, which I think should be much closer to a pick on. As a professional bettor, there's only one pick, and that's Colby Covington for me.
Jay, I read your article on Odds Market earlier on today. Break this fight down for me, please.
Yeah, I think that this card, there's about a half dozen fights on this card that can go either way. I think it's the toughest main event and co-main event to call this year. And if I was going to describe both these fighters with 2 words, it would be wrestling and it would be stamina. They both have accomplishments up and down their high school and college career. It's really tough who you would give the wrestling edge to. I lean towards Kamaru Usman only because he's got a 100% takedown defense ever in the history of all his fights in the UFC. And it was really impressive what he did to Tyron Woodley, which is another D1 wrestler. I would give the cardio edge to Colby Covington. He's got the sickest motor of anybody that I've ever seen in the UFC, personally. Each of their last fights were great performances for different reasons. Colby Covington broke the significant strike record against Robbie Lawler. And Kamaru Usman, the way he dominated Tyron Woodley, who at the time was the welterweight champion, was just so impressive, man. The fight should be a pick. I agree with Dave. I think it's almost impossible to feel good about going either way with this fight. But I saw earlier today that you can get Colby Covington at 2.65 at UWager, and that's just absolutely absurd, man. I mean, the fight should be a pick. If both these guys were even money, I would probably take a shot on Kamaru Usman, but they're not. Plus 165 is a joke. So I agree with Dave. I took Colby Covington at plus 165 in the article because, like he said, as a sports bettor, it's the only move you can make, even if you don't feel great about it. It's the only move you can make as a sports bettor.
Jay, if your view is, not your view, but if the public's view is that this could go the distance, would you say that Covington would be the favourite?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it probably does go the distance. I think the odds for this fight to go the distance are like minus 260. So this in a five-round fight.
Jay, this is the angle that I'm looking at. Because if we got the public and we've got the professional opinions saying that it's odds on, massively odds on, that this is going to go the distance. And yet, if it goes the distance, the man who's at plus 165 or 175 then becomes the favourite, then surely it's more of a case for Colby to turn over Kamaru.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the greatest stamina I have ever seen in the cage, really. I can't think of anybody that's been more impressive. He could just go nonstop for 25 minutes. It's amazing. Kamaru Usman has very good stamina. He sets a really good pace. But what I've seen Colby Covington do is just absurd.
Okay, so that's an unbelievable start there for the main event. We've got elite level wrestlers, but we've got one that's got unbelievable stamina, and the majority think it's going to go the distance, and the person who you think is going to go the distance and win is the underdog at around 1 plus 165. So for me, Colby Covington, he gets 2 ticks. Let's move on to the co-main. Max Holloway is 21-4 against Alexander Volkanovski, who's 20-1, Jay.
Yeah, everybody knows who Max Holloway is. He's the greatest UFC featherweight in the history of the promotion and probably the history of the world. People know who he is, but they are a lot less familiar with his opponent in the fight on Saturday. Alexander Volkanovski is a murderer. 7 fights in the UFC, 7 wins. Prior to that, he goes 13-1 in various MMA promotions. He's got a Greco-Roman wrestling background, but he doesn't use it in the octagon as much as I would have thought that he would. He was a 2-time champion in the Australian Fighting Championship, which is one of the world's better MMA promotions globally. Israel Adesanya had multiple fights out of there. His stand-up game is clean. He lands a ton of volume. His footwork and his feints are really good. He uses all his limbs. He generally has really good hand speed. Overall, the kid is an excellent fighter. There are not many cracks I could find in his armor when breaking down the tape and watching his fights again. I'm a big fan, but he has the biggest challenge he will ever have at this weight class for as long as he's in the UFC. Everyone that saw Max Holloway last see him get destroyed by Dustin Poirier the last time he fought. And half of the people that will be betting on this fight won't even realize that this fight and the Poirier fight are at 2 completely different weight classes. The last 6 of 7 years, there has been no fighter that can hang with Max Holloway in this division. If you take a look at how Alexander Volkanovski looked beating Jose Aldo, and then you look at what Max Holloway did twice to a younger Jose Aldo, he absolutely decimated him, man. I went into the week leaning towards Alexander Volkanovski. I just don't know. I think that the way that Max pressures opponents and how deadly accurate that he is capable of being makes me lean slightly towards him. No matter how much I like Volkanovski, I just have to give Max the respect because it's his weight class. So I can't touch a side. As much as I really thought I would take Volkanovski at 2.35, I can't do it. So the angle that I'm going to go with is I really don't think that this fight goes the distance. You can get not goes the distance at 2.30. I think that Volkanovski hits real hard for a featherweight. And the way that Max is going to pressure him and throw the volume that he throws, I think he will either knock Max out because he's being too aggressive, or the sheer volume that Max Holloway throws finds a home and he wears Volkanovski down like he wears everybody down. That's why when Max Holloway knocks people out, it's in the 4th round, it's in the 5th round, because it's just a barrage for 5 rounds. So it's way too close to call for me. I just have a feeling that we don't see the final bell. And at that plus money, I thought it was worth taking a shot with the unit and just sitting back and watching somebody get knocked out or stopped.
Okay, well, before I come to you, Dave, this is our second fight that we're covering, and already I'm getting excited because they look like they're ones where you get a beer, you get your peanuts, you sit yourself back, and you watch the art that is MMA.
Yeah, that's perfect. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Flash. This event, handicapping this event is one of the most stressful weeks I have had all year, handicapping any event. And now we've got to try and pick a winner between Max Holloway and Volkanovski. So I don't usually do this. I don't usually break down a fight this way, but I have to turn to the common opponents, and the most recent common opponent is Jose Aldo. When I watch Volkanovski versus Jose Aldo, he does nothing in comparison to what Max Holloway did to Jose Aldo. Yes, I think he's great. He is a Greco-Roman wrestling champion, but let's remember that this is on the regional. This is not national. He didn't leave Australia. He beat a bunch of guys in Australia. Okay, and then he became a professional rugby player. So there was a period in Volkanovski's life where he didn't even care about MMA. He was busy focusing on rugby. And yes, he did come up against guys that were 6'5" and 6'6". But when I see critics and other MMA handicappers on the internet base their pick on Volkanovski because he used to be a rugby player, I have to laugh. It's a joke. It doesn't mean much. He's fighting Max Holloway. Once upon a time, Max Holloway was 3-3 in the UFC. He lost a decision to Conor McGregor, and since that day, I've not seen that kid look back. He has beat the hell out of everybody. He did 13 fight win streak in the featherweight division, and then he stepped up to lightweight and took his first loss in 5 years or 4 years to Dustin Poirier. Now, Dustin Poirier could be Max's kryptonite in this one because, quite frankly, he beat him early on in his career as well. Dustin's just a big-ass, stronger dude than Max, and Max couldn't handle it. Now the featherweight king returns, and for some reason, people think that this 5'5" Volkanovski is going to run through Max and run him down when he couldn't even finish an aging Jose Aldo. I don't think it's going to happen. I also have to take a look at the Chad Mendes fight with Volkanovski. Chad Mendes dropped Volkanovski, okay? Now, this is not Chad Mendes in his prime. This is Chad Mendes, who is also aging and was in his prime at the same time Jose Aldo was. So now I have to think, well, Chad Mendes was fully gassed in that second round. I do not care what anybody says. The guy had fully depleted in comparison to the first round. He took Volkanovski down. He dropped Volkanovski. Okay, fair enough. Volkanovski came out and knocked him out in the second round. I think that was just a time and a place thing. Volkanovski's on the up, Chad is on the down. A prime Chad Mendes would have finished that fight in the first round, and we'd be looking at probably a 19-2 Volkanovski right now. back to Max. Max can pressure strike. He's a counter striker. He can switch stance. He can throw high kicks, low kicks, spin kicks. All the tools at his disposal is just endless. And we've seen him have his way in that octagon with anybody who has stepped in front of him, bar Dustin Poirier over recent times. Look, Volkanovski, he hasn't lost in the UFC. He's shown me more than enough flaws in his Chad Mendes and Jose Aldo fight. Even though he won, I think, you know, if you're not finishing Aldo right now, and you're meant to be the new, you know, the new next big thing, it's not going to work out against Max Holloway, whose striking is, I think, will overwhelm Volkanovski. He's not going to be able to land these power shots because is he even going to get to Max? Max's jab will probably keep him at bay. And Max might even take away that wrestling with some leg kicks as well. I'm not sure what Max's game plan will be, but I know one thing's for certain. Max has not let me down to this day in the featherweight division, and I don't think he's going to at the weekend. The price is fair to me. In all honesty, I could see Max into the minus 200s. You got minus 170 right now. I'm not sure that's on a decimal. I find it easier to work with America, and I do apologise. But yeah, it's Max Holloway or nothing for me. I don't see a dog opportunity in Volkanovski. I do respect what he's done. I do respect his accolades. But sorry, it took an NCAA Division I champion in Frankie Edgar 8 attempts to get Max Holloway to the ground. 8 attempts. And this is a Division I NCAA champion, not a Greco-Roman who's just fought in Australia. Yeah, it's Max Holloway for me. Line's perfect. I won't be investing in it the way some people will. It's not going to be a single play for me. You'll see Max Holloway on my punching parlay this week.
Yeah, so what, basically minus 170, I'm working it out really quickly as I do, is about 1.58 on the decimal and about 4 to 7 on fractional odds. I mean, if you're getting under 1 to 2 about Max Holloway, but obviously you've got to go with Jay as well. Plus 230, sit back, let them go to war, and if one of them doesn't see or hear the bell at the end, then you pick up plus 230. I mean, you could almost do both, I think, Dave. I think you could have a bit of Max at 170 and the KO at 230. If it goes against you, you're still going to pick up. And if it goes with Max, then you win both ways. I think it's... Well, listen, it just makes your mouth water because you're going to see boys actually go at it and there's no mismatch involved. Now, talking of mismatches, Jay, I'm going to come back to you because we've got Amanda Nunes at 18-4 against Jermaine Durandamy at 9-3, and it's a title bout.
I've made $20,000 back in Amanda Nunes since 2015. Literally. Before anybody knew she was the best in the world, I was saying that she was a UFC champion. And if that Chris Cyborg ever had the balls to get in the cage with her, she would get sparked. And so fast forward 4 years, and here we are. I've been right since 2015, and I'm going to be right Saturday. Greatest female UFC fighter, MMA fighter ever. Jermaine Durandamy isn't. So I hear a lot of people talking about how Jermaine Durandamy is going to win this fight. So let me shut down the argument, okay? I've heard people say that Amanda Nunes won't be able to deal with the height and reach of Jermaine Durandamy. To that, I would say she destroyed Holly Holm, who is a half-inch shorter and has the same exact reach. And she already beat Jermaine Durandamy in 2013. People will say, oh, well, she beat her in 2013. She wasn't as refined as she is now. To that, I say, when Amanda Nunes fought Jermaine Durandamy for the first time, Amanda Nunes fought 11 times in her life. At that point in time, Jermaine Durandamy was already 40-0 as a professional kickboxer. She still got starched. The leaps and bounds that Amanda Nunes has made since then trump whatever Jermaine Durandamy has learned since then. And finally, there are actually people saying that Jermaine Durandamy's ground game has increased exponentially since then. And now Amanda Nunes will have her hands full. To that I say, Jermaine Durandamy has had 12 professional fights. You know how many times she submits somebody? This many times.
The old duck egg.
0. As a matter of fact, I've never seen the girl on the ground. Maybe 5 minutes in her entire career. So how would anybody know if she improved on the ground? Bro, stop. All right? We're talking about the best in the world, man. Flash, I'm going to have 5 dimes on her at moneyline minus 275. And I'm going to have another $2,000 parlay with her and Peter Yan. So at minus 140. So book it.
So I get the impression, Dave, that Jay's a little bit keen on Amanda Nunes.
Yeah, do you know what? In the beginning, I thought, oh, this will be a good fight because, you know, Jermaine, she does have some decent striking. She might put up a little bit of a fight. And I think, you know, she could maybe for, I don't know, 60 seconds to 2 minutes. But it doesn't matter what happens in this fight. Amanda Nunes has to win. GDR, what does she have? What does she have at her disposal? She has striking. Striking that has failed to finish Raquel Pennington, failed to finish Holly Holm. Jesus, she couldn't even finish Julie Kedzie. Like, and this is a girl that comes from the Dutch kickboxing world, who Jay already mentioned had a 30-plus record. And you know what? I'm seeing people online sharing videos of Jermaine Durandamy versus a man in a kickboxing fight. And obviously GDR wins and people are taking... Do you not think Amanda Nunes trains with men every single day in the gym? Do you think Amanda Nunes has got to where she's got to this day by fighting girls? No, that is not the case. Amanda Nunes will knock me out. She'll knock you out, Flash. She'll knock Jay out. To be quite honest, all 3 of us could pounce her and she would knock us out. It doesn't matter if you're 6 foot, 6'5", 5'5", 5'10". It makes no difference. 200 pounds, 250 pounds, 300 pounds. The girl is a killer. I've watched every single one of her fights this week, and guess how long it took me? It took me no longer than half an hour, because she finishes them all and she does it in beautiful fashion. She could have finished Miesha Tate on the feet, no problem. But you know what? She thought, I'll mix it up. She took it to the ground and then she choked her. She put Ronda Rousey out, and Ronda Rousey did not know where the hell she was. And then she fights potentially, you know, the second greatest female that the UFC has ever seen in Valentina Shevchenko, and she beats her twice like it's nothing. And now she gets the most feared woman on the planet. Now, the equivalent of Mike Tyson in the female MMA world, she gets given Cyborg. And what does she do? She comes out and she proves everybody wrong again. She beats the girl that has been knocking people out for 15 years. And Amanda comes in and she puts her to sleep.
In 1 minute.
Now she's facing GDR, main event, the last pay-per-view of the year. She's had a great year. You see on her social media, she couldn't be happier in everything that she's doing. And people seem to be overlooking her right now. The odds for me are, I'm not sure what they're at now, but I've seen these odds floating around the mid 200s, and I think that's a disrespect. Amanda should be up there minus 500, minus 600. Anybody taking her this weekend, I wouldn't worry. I'm not taking her straight. I'm not about to do a 5-dime bet like Jay, but obviously she will slip right into the punching parlay for me with Max Holloway. And yeah, I'm going to enjoy this one. It's got to be a first round finish. Second round, yeah, got to be.
Yeah, but both of you can answer this, and obviously quite quickly. They take this fight not to go to distance, and Amanda Nunes to finish it.
Yeah.
That
She's like
fair.
minus 125 to win by knockout, which is a great reduced price on the minus 280 that she is on the money line. But I'm just gonna take her by money line and throw her in a big parlay.
Yeah, nice. I like that, gentlemen. So, listen, we've got a great main event. We've got a great co-main. And the title bout, listen, it's just sit back, enjoy, and look forward. And the worst part about Saturday night will be when the last fight finishes and we've got to wait for the season to start again. I wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I'm going to be seeing these two boys again on Friday because Dave is going to come with me with the lower leagues. And my good pal from the live line on Monday nights, we're going to go through the NFL card. And there's been some major market moves already. Boys, great work as always. Up Team Liveline. I know I've got to be unbiased. Yeah, good luck with that one. Make sure you bring the honey home, babies. Bring the honey home.
See you on Friday.
Take care, boys.
I mean, we'll do our best.
Yeah, that's good enough. But I don't never doubt that you do your best. That's why you're my boys. Team Liveline, come on, beat Team Lowbag. And if you are going to back them, then make sure your name goes into the hat for that UFC pass for a year for next season. Okay, thanks, Jay. Thanks, Dave. Coming up tomorrow, we've got Premier League punters. And then on Friday, the NFL with Jay and Spreadastair and myself and Dave will go through the lower leagues and find you proper value. I think we had 4 or 5 winners last week from 9 bets and we made profits. So until then, see you soon.